Welcome to the Caregivers Like Us podcast, where we are answering the call and serving others. The purpose of this podcast is to provide support, encouragement, resources, and solutions to the caregiving community. My name is Vaughn Foy, also known as the Voice Brander, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host and friend, Miss Coach Christi. We are listening forward to sharing with you. Enjoy. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this special edition of Caregivers Like Us. We wanted to make something special, and this time of this recording, it is Thanksgiving of 2024, and the special date of November 28th is marking the 3-year observance of Christi's son, and the journey ending on the caregiving journey and the assignment. And we want to talk a little bit about that today. And I thought it would be special to give my man Chris, to honor him and just give thanks and then talk about the journey here. So my wonderful co-host, Coach Christi.
Hello.
Let's just share with the audience, and it's been 3 years, and
3 years.
We just want to hear from you. What is this for you? Well, let me back up a little bit. We talk a lot about on the show about when our assignment is over. It was 30 years, and now I'm making sure I have my history right. On the 12th, he did make his 30th birthday.
He did make his 30th birthday, yes.
Yeah, which was beautiful, and we were able to celebrate that and talk a little bit about the assignment being over, the 30 years, the making the milestone of the 30 years, and in that time, and just share with us in the audience what's on your heart at this moment and at this time.
Well, first and foremost, what you and we discussed this. The very first year, I dedicated that to myself and my self-care, and to really de-traumatizing, getting over any kind of as much healing as I could possibly do for myself. That was very important to me, because it was something that I didn't always practice through the entirety of the 30 years. Obviously, the last 5 years, when we had started the podcast, and we were talking about the self-care and the importance of that, we really got into the routine of that and the importance of it. But it's really just a time to self-explore. Like, really, it's a gifted opportunity, I felt, where it's just me. It's just me and God, and we get to figure out the right next steps. And for me to be useful, it's to fill my cup so that I am continuing to serve from my saucer. So I am still in the midst of doing that. But I really went aggressively the first year of therapies and, massages and my own health journey that I was recovering from, just really jumping into that with both feet and, supporting my daughter with the girls. The grandkids both have the same syndrome. So just really working on me. is what I dedicated myself to. And I know I said it was one of the best things and the best gift I gave to myself. So when your mom passed, I encouraged the same, just take that first year to just really decompress and heal, de-traumatize, whatever topics need to come out in therapy, do the work, and really find peace. Because I felt very peaceful after his passing. I felt yeah, kind of like that long run was finally over, of just like, oh, okay, now I can rest. And really resting was part of the work. And that was, I told you, it was difficult to do, learning how to get out of fight or flight mode, learning, what puts me in fight or flight mode. That was another awareness that I wasn't aware of. I remember we shared that. The minute my feet would touch the floor, I would anxious and, oh gosh, is he breathing, and let me go check. And so just learning things like that, like what subconsciously at a subconscious level, how am I running my life, and reconstructing that.
Yeah. For those that this may be the first episode that you're hearing, Jeffrey, Christopher, or Chris,
boss man,
Boss man.
depending on who he hung out with.
Yep, he talked just briefly about. I always think it's great to emphasize, when he was born, he didn't know. No one knew what he actually had, his syndrome.
Right. So he was born. We were told he was going to be born stillborn. So he was born without a heartbeat, but they were able to get a heartbeat back, and that started our journey. So what we learned, it took us about 5 years before we learned what was happening with him. But in his pituitary gland, there's 3 glands, and only one of his glands were working. So he had failure to thrive, chronic pneumonias. He had also a hole in between his trachea and his esophagus, which they didn't catch till he was 5.
Wow.
So he had multiple, anytime we fed him, he'd aspirate into the lungs.
Oh, wow.
So he had multiple pneumonias, constantly in critical care. Yeah, he was touch and go for sure the first 18 years of his life. But just the first 5 years were very critical because he was so tiny.
Was he premature, or was he tiny, just tiny?
He was born full term. However, because of his syndrome, he was born 3 pounds. And so, he spent the first 3 months in the little incubator, and his, getting his belly Reuben up and all that kind of thing. And so, yeah, he definitely had some difficulties. And again, he weighed 12 pounds at 1 year old. So, I mean, he still stayed really tiny.
Wow.
In fact, I remember when he was 5, we got to throw like his first birthday party for him, because he'd been so sick we couldn't really plan a birthday party per se. I'll say he was, not that we didn't celebrate his birthday, but he actually was home and was able to have a birthday party and participate in his own birthday party. So he was 5, and at that time he only weighed 20 pounds. Wow. So he was still super, super tiny. In 5 years, he'd only gained 8 pounds.
Wow.
So, yeah, he really had a long journey of hospitalizations and critical care. But he flourished. He flourished. And it was right around 5 years old that we were able to get with the right doctor, who said, I kind of heard of this syndrome, and I'd like to test him for it, and I'm not sure, but hey, let's give it a shot. And sure enough, it was 3 days of continuous blood draw at the time. That's how they had to do that. So we stayed at the hospital, and they did a routine blood draw. Anyway, they realized he had BBS syndrome, Bardet-Biedl Syndrome. It's very rare here in the United States. And so just finding that out was great. Learning how to treat it, whole nother story.
And that was at 5 years old.
That was at 5. So from 5 to 25, they really were just treating the symptoms. Any doctor that he had, like he didn't have doctors that knew how to treat his syndrome. They knew of it. And I mean, we're talking, we went to some world-renowned hospitals. And so he did have his team of specialists. He had 9 specialists. So they did the best that they could with what they had. And I mean, they did a good enough job of keeping him alive. So they did do something.
Wow.
But it wasn't until he was 25 that we actually found a physician that actually treated it in Europe and knew about it and knew how to sustain it.
Wow.
So at that time, we had just put him on hospice. Again, but this time we knew that significantly his kidneys were failing, and if things didn't change, then for sure this would be his last time on hospice. And the doctor actually was able to turn him around, and we were able to keep him another 5 years until his passing. So he's had an incredible journey, and he's, I don't know. he endured a lot of testing, a lot of well, let's try this, and well, let's try that, and oh, well, Mom, can we test you? What did you pass down? So there was a lot of guinea pig type of testing in the first few years of his life. And one of the things that I was able to learn was, one, your patient's rights. Patient's rights are so important to know. Because even though I was really young at the time, I learned that I can say no. Like, yeah, I understand that you want to test again, but can we wait for the last 6 tests to come back before we just pin cushion him every single day, where you're poking and prodding? And I mean, they were drilling into his bone marrow to, get like serious invasive, testing. So, I was able to learn that I had the voice to say no. And not a lot of patients know that. Just when I worked in the hospital, knowing like, oh, well, do you know your patient's right? I was really good about making sure that my patients knew what their patients' rights were, and letting the families know, like, no, you actually do. You're part of the team. It's not you just listen and do what you're told. It's, no, this is you. This is your life and your journey, and you can pick and choose what doctors you want on your team. So that was a really important part of his journey for me. And I'm very thankful that I learned that earlier on, because it was a game changer. There were definitely doctors that I was like, really? Well, then we are definitely not going to have that doctor. Because a lot of doctors, again, were guessing. They just were...
They didn't know.
So I spent a lot of time in the medical library. The first year that he was born, they were a teaching hospital, so I was able to go down to the basement areas where they had their medical library and spend some time down there and just really learn, like, what actually, because they were talking to me in medical language. I did not understand medical language. So I would talk with the nurses and get educated, and why are we doing this, and what is this drip for, and how many times are we doing this, and just really learning, the ins and outs of what is, he's hooked up to all these tubes and all these wires, and what does all this mean? And so for me, being able to learn about it helped me to help them kind of be like, well, I'm sitting here with him, I'm noticing this isn't working, and when he's turned this position, he has a lot more, labored breathing, and like reading the body, and I notice this isn't working, and just being the advocate, really. And sometimes, I will say the majority of the time, the nurses are always great about listening. Doctors, not so much. But when you get the right staff, and you get the right people in, then you have a much better outcome. because it really is important who is your nurse and who is your doctor. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. Can only imagine all of the things to grow, and we just want to make sure that the audience knows, continue to educate yourself on what your rights are. And I think that's so strong, because we have to become an advocate
Yeah.
when the ones that we love, that we're caring for, they can't speak for themselves, or
Right.
they don't know, or
Right.
here it is, you have a newborn, and
Yeah. You don't talk.
yeah, still learning, and all the way into even his teen years still. So you not only did you have to intercede and be an advocate, but then you're also being a grieving mom at the same time.
Right.
And with older siblings.
Yeah.
Who
Who are also grieving. Yeah. And one of the things too that I remember from what you were saying, like, he also is visually impaired. So, well, what nurse told you that? I don't know. So just always having to be at bedside. So I can see who's telling him what, and I can see, whatever that looked like. Or, you can't say, oh, well, I need you to, he could, feeding himself, all those little things. Just really being at bedside and working in the hospital environment and being in the environment. If you are able to have a family member at bedside, it is imperative to the patient's health to have someone there. They thrive much better. Even if you don't have someone that you can, just say, hey, can you go sit with my loved one while they're in the hospital because you're busy working or whatever. I would highly encourage hiring someone to just go sit and be with, so that they feel,
the patient.
Yeah, that the patient feels that, they're not just another patient number, or they're not just, because staff members are great, don't get me wrong. I worked in a hospital, and there's so many loving, caring people. You have to have the right kind of heart to work in a hospital. But you also have some very busy, hi, I'm in, I'm out, I'm doing what I'm doing. My son, because he couldn't see, he could hear the minute someone came in the room. Who's that? Who are you? What is your name? Why are you here? Kind of try to make a connection with them as he got older, so he could, understand, okay, you're coming in, you're getting ready to touch my body. What are you going to do to me? That kind of thing. And not everyone, even those that can see, they're just so used to doing their job as an employee. They just come in and, oh, hi, I'm, so-and-so. We're taught to explain what we're going to do. Not everyone does that. Not everyone explains what they're going to do. But yeah, there's the little details are what make a big difference. And just knowing, like I said, being able to be on both sides of the bed, I call it, being the staff worker and the family advocate. The children, for sure, always got healthier if someone could be there to kind of help them through that. And same goes for the elderly. Even like in your mom's situation after a stroke, you can't talk. So if you're not able to be there, like, there's signs that get to be posted, and all kinds of things to help advocate for why you're not there. But that would be, I would say, one of the golden nuggets, I would say. If you can have someone at bedside as much as possible, please do so. I would have my angel Evelyn, I called her. She would come and sit at bedside with Christopher while I would leave to go shower and reintroduce myself to my other children, and spend a little bit of quality time with them before going back to the hospital. Have a meal with them, something, ask how their day was doing. and see what I can do, because you're still running a household. You still have a life and bills that have to go on, and just, catch up for a little bit just to go back to the house. But she was my godsend, and she would sit there, and she would, call a nurse if things needed. And she was just the sweetest little elderly lady. It's not like she could do anything for him, but she knew how to call for help.
Yeah.
And so she would sit at his bedside and be his little guardian angel. So yeah, if there's anything that anybody could do, like go volunteer at a hospital or a facility and just get to know the patients and sit with them, spend some quality time with them, see what they need. And a lot of the patients you'll find, the ones who don't have regular family, they they like when other family members visit, because then you're talking too. So there were many a days that I would be asking the nurse, oh, that little kid, can I read a book to him? Can I do something? Or I would read out loud so the other kids in the same room could hear the book, or something, to where everybody kind of could be included. But I was not allowed to hug them, hold them.
Right.
Even though the other nurses were busy, they were like, sorry, we're not allowed to let you.
Right.
And that's how the nurses encouraged me. They were like, why are you not a respiratory therapist? Because you're literally doing a lot of our job for us. Not that they were letting me give medications and things like that. That would be against the law. But they were able to, I became very valuable, I'll say that. And so that helped me throughout my entirety, especially after I was licensed, because then the staff was more knowing my patient's rights and knowing that, no, my son has this condition and this is his mentality. And because of his mentality, this qualifies me to be there, kind of thing. I am his advocate speaking, because he was also mentally delayed, was his diagnosis. Nowadays, we call it high functioning. Back then, 30 years ago, it was a different diagnosis that, they don't care to use anymore. But yeah, it just learning along the way the little golden nuggets that really helped me, I would say, were important, and very helpful. So that anyone out there on their journey, those would be the things that I would say. Just really know your patient's rights, and always make sure that you're able to have someone at bedside as much as possible. I understand people work, so it's a whole thing. But if even hiring someone to come sit, it's legal and it's needed.
So needed. I can only imagine, and I remember my brother and I next to Mom, and just knowing that someone is there other than the nurses, the bed changers, and the doctor once every other day or whichever. But someone that's to be there. You're right. It's like so important. Even if we had to leave during the night and she was sleeping, or get away to get a shower or something like that, I think we don't realize the impact of just a human presence, someone there.
Yeah, our presence means everything.
Yeah. Same with, as you said, when Mom was in assisted living, there was this lady, I can't remember her name, but we would make sure that she was always saying hi and rolling down by the door and saying, "You guys are all right? It's good to see you." And she never had anyone, along with the hundreds of other people that we were only like one of 3 or 4 families that would come on a regular. We would see, and there's all these beds that we pass over. We eat, lunch and dinner and breakfast in the room. And it was always just so sad that no one else had nobody that would come for weeks.
Yeah.
And so I totally, having someone, anyway, even a hired, but someone that is just dedicated to be there, that's just so healthy. And it's so helpful.
Yeah, and helpful. And, getting to know the staff is always important too, because for me, I would sit there through the shifts with the family members. So depending on which nurse was in charge, if I didn't have somebody that could sit for the 2 hours that I'd be gone. And clearly this was as he was older, right? And had more say and understanding of what was going on, and how to advocate for himself. That was the other thing, is teaching him how to advocate for himself. Just knowing the staff member going, oh, it's you today? Okay.
Right.
I do know now that a lot of times I would tell my children, oh, I got to see which nurse is on, because that's going to let me know what my day is going to look like. If I'm able to leave for an hour or two to get some banking done or bring some lunch or, whichever to the other kids,
Right.
that would be the case. Same with the night shift.
Especially the night shift.
Yeah. And just trusting was a big part of the journey, is trusting that you're making the right choice by who you're leaving your loved one's hands in.
Yeah.
So, and same for my son. He had to trust that I was giving him, I was leaving him, or any of his caregivers, that he was in the right hands. Right. And so, we open communication was essential. Essential. And not just for me and my son, but for the other two kids as well. Like, what are you going through? What can I do to support you?
Right.
And that took growing into, right? Because as we were younger, things were very critical. And it was like, no, I just get to be gone, and I'll leave you with people I trust to keep an eye on you until I can come back to the house. So it was a big team that we had. We had quite a big team. And I was very fortunate that I was always in a place where I could leave my children with safe people, and I could leave Christopher with safe employees, or not that they were not safe, because you get you get scanned and all that before you're hired, but just knowing that I felt at peace with the people that I left, knowing that, oh, I've been here before with them. And he was at the hospital so much, he actually was known on a name basis, and we knew them, ER doctors, on a name basis. Like, it became, we call ourselves the frequent flyers, where you're just in and out of the hospital so much, the staff, the doctors, who's, okay, they're a little scatterbrained, I'll stay here today, You kind of pick and choose when you want to go home. So those kind of things, it's just part of the journey and the learning process. But really getting to know your staff is very important.
It is.
Yeah.
Because on occasions where, as much as you can, where you have to, sometimes your advocacy is like, no, I can no longer have this person with, my loved one. I remember having to do that with, there was a phlebotomist that was just, in my eyes, Eve was like, no, you're not, and I had to report him. And say, do not have him, because it was the second time he's coming around, and he was just stabbing her, and it's like, no, I need someone else. So you have to be able to, to be able to say no. I can't have him.
You can ask for other phlebotomists, and a lot of people don't know that. They just think, oh, well, they're the person that counts. No, you actually can ask for someone else. And with Christopher, he had trouble with his veins, and so we, when entering new people into a new hospital, he'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna let you poke me one time and one time only, and if you're not confident that you can get it in one time, can you please go get the staff member that has the experience?
That's good.
And so, and we would just say, they're known as a hard stick, or, whatever, like, no, we're, even with the nurses now, even same with the girls, their veins blow. It's a given. You put in an IV, by the end of the day, it's going to blow. So every shift you're putting in a new IV. So it's always making sure that the staff knows that, first of all,
Right.
because at some point they can take other measures to make it a little easier on the patient. And then making sure that you have the right staff members. So always being able to voice, don't be shy
Yeah.
about speaking what your needs are
Yeah.
as the patient and as a patient advocate.
Yeah.
Because nothing is more stressful than staff members not listening to you when you're
Yes.
trying to be there for your loved ones. So you are capable and able, patients' rights, to say, yeah, no, how about, can I just talk to the nursing supervisor or the hospital house supervisor?
Yes.
A lot of people don't know that that's a position.
Yes.
That you can actually talk to the charge nurse on the floor. The charge nurse has, a house supervisor. And then she also has people that she answers to. So, I mean, there is a chain of command.
Yes.
And knowing that and knowing that,
You can
who do I need to talk to? And okay, I need to call down to the ER to talk to this person or that person. I know it's silly, but read those papers that they give you that they want you to sign, because it does have information on it that is really important.
I remember reading even in the wall signs, specifically, I forgot what they called it at this particular hospital, but I think it's the same, and let me know. But it's like patient advocacy. It's almost like a hotline number. If you are experiencing any issues at all, we as the hospital want to make sure that we address. Call this number. I've had to call because we were asking a simple request, and we were, in our eyes, we were being blown off.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, let's discharge. So we called the advocacy, and I'm telling you, within minutes, they respond to that, whatever the hotline or whatever on the wall.
Yeah, the ombudsman.
Yeah, ombudsman. Yeah. I always seen that word.
Yeah.
It's a weird, interesting word. But I now, every time when I go in the hospital, I look for that. Okay, this hospital has.
Every hospital has it. Where if you don't know where it's posted, then please make sure to ask.
That's like one of the first things to ask when you're going in. Well, why do you need to know that? Just so that in case I need to use it.
Because I know that I can know what it is.
It's not supposed to be hidden.
Because it is my patient's right to know what that number is.
Yeah, that's a great way to say that. That's my patient's right to do that. And that helps so much.
And journaling. You can journal and document every visit, like while you're there, this is what happened. A lot of your long-term facilities, if so-and-so came in to do, I mean, they have the record of it.
Right.
But you can leave a journal at bedside and ask the staff, oh, you came in and checked my mom or changed or whatever. Can you journal it that you were here and the time and what you did? Not everybody will do that, but if it's more like a private setting, I've worked in those places where it's required. The facility itself, that way the family knows, it's an accountability.
Right.
And so, especially with patients who have forgetfulness, oh, I've been sitting here all day and I didn't eat. Well, Mom, right here it says that Sally came in at 4 and fed you, and Esther was here to, check on you, and then Sammy came and cleaned your room, and, oh, I don't remember that, so it's important. Good. It's important to have, but yeah, I did learn some things along the way. That was part of our functioning forward as we joyfully grieved, and we just we kind of made our own way. And we continue to use the same tools, for this next generation, my grandkids, that we're continuing on the journey with.
Yeah. So, but for those, again, tuning in for the first time, so your son had the
BBS
BBS syndrome. and now your grandkids both have it at the same, and so it's like the journey or a new journey, continues. You know a lot more.
Yeah.
You've really paved the way and cleared the trail, so to speak.
Yeah.
And and that's a blessing part of it, is that because you know so much, you can educate in advance
Yeah.
the doctors and things like that. And of course, your daughter, that is, she's walking her journey as well. And
She's on a whole new journey with her children. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It is hereditary, and both parents need to have it, the gene. So, yeah, it's been interesting that there's two back to back. That's very rare. And yet here we are. So,
super rarity. Wow.
but yeah, she definitely, if anyone is the queen of knowing about BBS, I would say it was my daughter, because she grew up with it.
Yeah.
So having
Yeah.
a sibling with it, so being able to relate to her children,
Wow.
and then now being on my side of it, of being the parent, being there to advocate for your children
Yeah.
as they're, the new levels of decline show up. So, yeah.
Wow. It's a journey.
It is a journey, yeah, because it does consist of chronic heart, lung, and kidney failure. My son's version, anyway. There's 13 different versions of it, and yeah, my daughter's children are not as severe. They are still significantly severe with the lung failure issues, and now getting into some kidney issues. And the visually impaired. So a lot of similarities, just not as critical as my son was.
Right.
So yeah, he was a really good advocate for the girls, because he could specifically speak to them and share with them things, or okay, well, when you're feeling this, try doing this.
From his side, yeah.
From his side of it. And I had just recently asked Janessa, what's one of the things that you learned the most from, your uncle? She said, he taught me confidence. He taught me how to not be ashamed of my syndrome, and, how to help other people understand our syndrome.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's so great that, because they had a lot of really great conversations. And yeah, they were our three peas in a pod. So yeah, they learned quite a bit from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can only imagine. The great thing about him was that he was always willing to share.
Whether you wanted to hear it or not, he was always willing to share. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, in a
sure.
good way. So that's, and having the caring to be able to, hey, uncle is, helping us, and
yeah,
that's or cousin, no, uncle, cousin?
Uncle. He was their
his
uncle. Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, the journey, and I know we talked a little bit about, but from visually being impaired to energy, kidney failure, things like that, and there's like multiple things at the same time, and then the diagnosis, and just the journey on parenting, and really kind of becoming a respiratory therapist, and then just life, for the most part, single mom, and really rolling life. And Mr. Chris was not I'm just going to sit at home kind of person like this dude.
He was very outgoing, and any moment he could get out of the house and not lay in his bed, because when he was deathly ill, he couldn't get out of his bed. So it was imperative to him that he was like, nope, I'm awake and I feel decent. I feel well, I feel decent. Let me go out to this world and let me explore and talk and teach. And yeah, he had a message to deliver, and he knew that. And so he made it. And when he couldn't get out into public, he brought the public right into him with his prayer lines. And you call in, tell me what you need, let's pray, let's share the word, he did not let his circumstances stop his fulfillment of his purpose. He just found a way around it.
Absolutely. And he was definitely super inspiring. Even from his music, and we'll play some of that here on the show, and in this episode, a little bit later, we'll play one of the songs. But coming, even recording, singing, he was a drummer. He was always talking with groups, always out and about. And I bring that up too because like you were chauffeur as well.
I was chauffeur. I was, if he had a girlfriend, we had a girlfriend. I was the wallet. It was, I was the right-hand woman. Yeah.
Wow.
And so we had a very fun journey together. We did.
Wow.
Yeah. And the interesting fun part about the whole thing is, like I said, when he was little, he had that hole between his esophagus and his trachea. So when he spoke or cried, it was silent. We couldn't hear. So I would literally have to be very close to him and because if he was crying, I couldn't hear it. So I'd have to physically be looking at him and visually make sure that I'm looking at him. So he had so much scar tissue when he started to sing and play instruments. And he had to build up the strength and the ability. It strengthened his vocal cords. It helped him to get to, because when he first started singing, it was not a pleasant tone or note or whatever you say in the music world. And the siblings would be like, Mom, please get him to be quiet. Just tell him to stop.
Wow.
Like, let him live his best life. Please let him just do it. And so he was determined to make the album, and his voice did get better over time.
No, it is. I mean, to come from where, you couldn't barely talk or at all, or
at all,
voice
people could not. Your voice, he had no voice. Literally, he had no voice.
To end up where you have an album.
Yeah. And knowing that your purpose is to go share the wisdom of the Lord. He was like, how do I do that? And he did. He started playing his little instruments that strengthened some chords and his vagal nerves and things like that started to get stronger, and he was able to fulfill what he needed to fulfill.
That and hearing about just that journey, and it's like it's always inspiring to where there's no, when you come here, it's like there's no excuses.
I'm telling you.
Talk about when you hear whining.
Many a days I was like, I really have no room to be complaining about anything. Yeah. I was just happy to be able to go to work and through the whole week, or like I made it to work the whole month, without having to, take some time off or switch a day with someone so that I can, fulfill my 3 days a week and still take care of him. Or when I worked 5 days a week, I mean, it was interesting. Yeah. Lots of juggling.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
A lot of functioning forward. Definitely lived in fight or flight. I mean, that's that pace of let's go, anxious, let's get it done, That was a shift to get out of. It took a while. I still find myself catching myself going, ooh, I am in fight or flight.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we need to get out of that.
Well, 30 years, and this is putting it in a very general state, but you were, every day was like he could pass or something could, any kind of complication could come up. And especially if there was a hospital or something like that. So like you said, like the fight or flight, everything was based on almost like being on constant prepare.
I was always hyper vigilant, hyper aware, hyper sensitive to anything and everything. You hear anyone, I could be in the grocery store and hear someone cough 3 aisles over, and I'm like, are they okay?
Right.
You know, or anything, you know. And I was always in is everybody safe mode.
Yeah.
And so shifting out of that, just saying, no, everyone is safe. And it's okay to relax and enjoy. Has probably been the hardest to shift out of, because it was a learned behavior.
Yeah, 30 years of it.
Yeah, so shifting out of it, year 3, I've still got a long way to go, for sure.
Well, I've known you for a long
You've
long
known me
time.
through the whole journey, yeah.
And and one of the things here to share is you're on this, and we talk about it for all caregivers, but you're on this once your assignment is done. And you said at the beginning of the podcast was it took you a whole year to just rest, take care of yourself, because everything else was
take care of him.
Yeah, take care of him.
Yeah.
And we talked about this, but once your assignment's over, it's like, now who am I? Oh, there's so many ritual or routine things that our mind's like, okay, I get up, are they breathing? I get up, are they fed? I get up. We have what appointments today? Get up there, what medicine, who's visiting, what, there's an extra cough today, so, that means blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So you have all of these scenarios, and we talk about like the A through Z, scenarios, plans, option.
Yeah, because he didn't just wake up and be like, okay, time for breakfast. No, it was like a whole ritual of an hour's worth of breathing treatments and vest therapy and clearing the airways and, and then an hour later, after all the medications are done and gone and done and said, and okay, well, how about you get up and go brush your teeth and let's start the day, like it was,
Wow.
We didn't wake up easily.
Right.
It's a routine.
Yeah.
And same with the girls. You're not just able to just get up and get dressed and walk out the door.
Let's go, right.
Yeah, it's a whole routine of how are our airways. It's a daily check-in. What do we got to do to get to point A?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so that we can get dressed and get our fed and out the door, that kind of thing. So it's a big shift. And I would say what I've loved most about the last 3 years is just getting to enjoy my other 2 kids and my family members and my friends. I mean, I get to spend more time with my friends.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah.
And just enjoying life.
Yeah, that's good. I think to emphasize about not only taking the time for you, but that's part of taking time for you too. Is like, well, things that you haven't enjoyed,
Yeah. Yeah, I went back to church. I mean, I just got involved in the groups that I wanted to get involved in. Like, I didn't overdo myself. But I definitely found this amazing women's Bible study of women that I still hold on to today, that we're still in contact with, that we still do Bible study with. And it's just been a whole entire healing. Yeah, I just continue to, what can I do next to keep healing? Oh, look at that little wound. Okay, let's work on why is that still so sensitive, and let's work on that. So,
and also with that, giving yourself the grace to heal and to recognize, like, okay, this isn't gonna be it's not going to be quick.
It's not like a broken bone, and in 8 weeks you're good.
Yeah, it's like wear a cast. Like, no, this is like you said, the trauma, mental, Emotional.
These are soul wounds that are healing.
Mm.
Yeah, these are soul wounds, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of work. Putting in the work. People want to be healed. They don't always necessarily want to do the work to get healed.
Emphasize that a little bit. What do you mean
Well,
when
just
you say the
because
word?
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you gotta get in your feelings, and you gotta, really put yourself under a microphone scope, I mean, and, get feedback. Allow people to judge you and be vulnerable and be open to, open, honest communication. And not all feedback is good feedback.
Right.
It's their perception. So that doesn't mean it's always correct.
Right.
So, yeah, just really, really learning what's for me, what good feedback is for me. What are the things that what makes me safe? What makes me feel safe? That was a great exercise to do. How do I feel, emotionally, spiritually, mentally? What are the things that I do or that I can create that make me feel safe in all those areas?
Right.
So that I even had I known that 10 years earlier, oh man, that would have been golden. Because there were steps that I could have minor shifts.
Right.
That I could have changed. So just really, you really get to surrender everything. Like I had mentioned before, and I shared this with you. I wrote a list of everything that I intentionally intended on burying when I buried my son. Like, okay, that chapter's over.
That was a great episode.
What other emotions, what other angers, what other, belief systems am I ready to now bury with my child, so that as I move forward, I'm not dragging some past wounds into my future? And really sitting down with myself and really letting all the junk come out. And that was very, very, so I said, take that first year. And of course, I've done more than a year, but really take that first year to be intentional. Be intentional about, what do I want my future to look like? And how do I want, emotionally, physically, spiritually, what state of mind do I want to be in? What's going to best serve me? Those kinds of things. And learning the functioning forward and learning the, just because Joyfully Grieving was created before my son passed, we're still doing it and using it. We're still and keeping that with the girls. And Brianna is amazing about incorporating fun. That was something I didn't always do with my kids. I allowed them to go have fun, but I didn't create fun always amongst all of us. I did what we could with the health situations we were in. And that also meant my mental health. I was an anxious mess a lot of times,
Right.
And so for me, I'm like, can we just be quiet for the
Just be
day?
quiet.
Can we have a pajama day and movie day, or whatever that looked like? But I definitely didn't want my older children to have to pay the consequences of what me and Christopher had to walk through. So I always encourage them. What is it you want to do? Within reason, within safety boundaries. Go have fun. Go live your life. Go enjoy yourself. And so, it was Christopher's last 5 years that he was like, okay, Mom, it's time. When are you going to live your life? I want to see that you're living your life and that you're happy and that you're going to be okay when I'm gone. So that's how I created the Joyfully Grieving, and
That's good.
purposely went out and had fun, even though my son was on hospice, even though the stories I was telling myself of, what kind of mother goes on a vacation when her child's on hospice, those kinds of things. So worried about being judged. And but by that time, I'm like, the people in my life, they know our story.
Right. And they're more supportive.
And they're the ones that have been telling me, go do something for yourself. So I really just had to listen to the stories that were being, that come up for me, and just say, is it true? Is it even a true story?
Right.
Or am I just holding on to it because it's easier? It's an easier story to hold on to and not have to go have fun and not have to push through those emotions or, whatever that looks like. Yeah.
I want to bring out to the audience, so all of these journeys with Christi, the Joyfully Grieving is like her program that she has. You want to talk with her, like she wants to talk with you. This is what she does now. She helps people, because you're grieving while you're going through the journey with your loved one alive, and for this part after the assignment is done.
Yeah.
But joyfully grieving and then functioning forward. So you do want to get in touch with Christi. We have all of her information on the Caregivers Like Us page, and she literally is waiting for your call and would love to talk with you. She loves to help.
I love helping families.
Yeah.
I've been there. I know. Even if it's just, you can go ask for coffee. They can bring it to you for free. You don't have to leave and go to Starbucks, unless you prefer the better coffee. But you can bring your own, bring your own backpack, bring your own snacks, bring, whatever. There's so many tools.
Yeah. Well, there's a wealth of information. Again, as caregivers, we don't know, and that's another reason why we have caregivers like us, is because we want to help our fellow caregivers to know what tools they have available, what resources they have available, someone to talk to, because or someone to just get some ideas
group.
from.
Somebody, because it can be very lonely sitting at bedside and not knowing, you can't always reach out to your friends because they don't know. Unless they've been in that position, they don't know. And so it's hard to explain to them.
Can't you just, can you just have someone just for a night? Let's go out, can't you, do you have to do all of that? And it's like, you have no idea. And it would take longer to explain.
Yeah.
And you won't get it. So we get it that no one else gets it. Except
those of us that know, we know.
Yeah, no. And then immediately once you know, it's like, oh. Yeah, caregivers are people. It doesn't matter what the loved one has. It could be, for whatever, it could be mental, it could be a physical thing, it can be psychological, all of that.
All those things.
We know that.
Yeah, I finally got to go to some of those places I've never got to go to. Some of my friends at our age are like, what do you mean you haven't gone there?
Right.
I'm like, well, when did I have the time?
Yeah.
So, just actually getting to grow into my age has been wonderful. Yeah.
Because it's been somewhat on a pause.
It's been on a swaggly, windy road to get to where I am. Yeah. But I'm definitely enjoying the me time. Really getting to, Christopher and I started this before his passing, of just really jumping in and cherishing who we are as a person, individually, just really being able to look at that person in the mirror and say, I love you. You're just such an amazing person. And believing it.
Yeah.
And believing it is the key. So that was a big shift, because I had always loved myself, but I definitely was not cherishing myself all the time. So jumping into that and having that experience with Christopher in his last couple years was a beautiful experience.
Share a little bit about that, with the audience, about the difference, kind of you love yourself, but what's one aspect about cherishing yourself?
So one of the biggest golden nuggets I got out of doing the group, so thank you, Tisha and Ricardo, I love you, my respiratory teacher, they've always poured value into me and my son, so I love them very much for that. So thank you. So one of the key things that I heard that has stuck with me is, you can love someone and and not cherish them. But you cannot cherish someone and not love them. There's a different level of endearment, I guess you could say, or how, you value that individual, especially the person in the mirror. And I remember when he was still alive, I took 12 pictures of myself, and I did a clock shape on the wall. And then I had a little, the little 3x5 cards.
Gotcha.
Those.
Flashcards.
Flashcards, that's it. And I just had a flashcard on there in the middle, and wrote, "At all times, you are loved and cherished." Just to, be able to look back at the different stages of myself, because they were all from all different kinds of years. So I had a variety. It wasn't like 12 of my best, photo shots. It was me over a course of time, more than 12 years, but a course of, this is when he was little, like me in my 20s, me in my 30s, me in my 40s. And a collection of, that's my journey. Like that was very healing for me, just to be able to look back and be like, just embrace where you are, and it is what it is, and love this moment of your life. Yeah. And so Christopher and I, we both did that. And it was very healing, very helpful. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a neat exercise and a neat book cover.
Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Yeah. No, that's it's very interesting, because just this morning I found a video of Mom, being here at the studio with one of my clients, and and that's 5 years ago, looking different, and just remembering Mom, even how her condition was 5 years ago. It was
so cute.
It's like, wow. So when you talk about like a picture time frame, and even with Mom, I mean, from the time, like the 6 years that she was, sick, there was different stages. I remember when she was having a heart attack, and I remember, for some weird reason, I took a picture of, like, something's wrong, and let me, snapshot this. Not that you want to keep those, but that's a neat exercise to visually see where you were at, what you were going through, and what you've overcome, and how that fed into who you are now and who you were becoming.
Yeah. Because it wasn't, family pictures. It was specifically pictures of me that either I liked about myself or that I wanted, that were significant pictures to me. And I'm like, no, because like you said, there were some where there's a picture of me, I'm holding Christopher, and he's like maybe 2, I don't know. He was like itty bitty little peanut. And I have this very disconnected, blank look on my face. I'm look adorable in my little outfit and my hair a mile high, and in style, but my face said everything of how just disconnected and distraught and traumatized I was in that moment. I could see that in that picture, because I knew what I was going through. But I'm sure someone else looking at, oh, what a cute picture. But for me, it was a significant, because it took, when I was looking through the pictures and I saw it, and I was like, wow. And here I thought I was masking and hiding.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, and I was thick into my self-harming back then. And, like just all the disconnect and all the things that I was, experiencing at the time, those came, those are what I saw when I saw the picture. And so I was like, wow, that's definitely going to be one of my 12. And just being able to, like you said, see it and know, wow, I have come such a long way. Yeah. And the stories I no longer live or believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of the transformation and the molding, things that God's pulled you through.
Dragged me through. It's more like it.
Yeah.
some of it kicking and screaming even,
Yeah.
other than just pure exhaustion being pulled through. But
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. No, and we never, we talk about, and rightfully so, we talk about, filling up your cup. But sometimes that filling up that cup is learning, like, what kind of cup do I
How big is that cup?
yeah, what does what can it hold? Is it
Yeah.
paper? Is it paper thin? Is it,
Right.
the cup may have holes in it? Is it is it not microwave
What
safe?
shape is this cup in? Yeah. Well, and I often said, and you and I have had so many conversations, but I've often said, well, growing pains don't tickle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even though I was growing, even though it was painful, to look back and go, wow, wow.
One of our earlier episodes that you reminded me, like, the growing pains don't tickle. We had an episode of, like, it's okay not to be
Be
okay.
okay. Mm-hmm.
And it's a real thing
Mm-hmm.
of not being okay. And when we're not okay, it's like, this sucks. You shared about a season of not being, wanting to self-harm.
Mm-hmm.
You're not okay.
I was not okay.
And
I didn't even know how not okay I was. You know what I mean? For me, I was, until someone told me, like, hey, you realize this isn't normal.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're kind of right.
Right.
maybe you're right.
Right.
And just understanding, thank God I had all of us in therapy, because it took my therapist to go, let's break this apart. Let's see where this root cause is from. Like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
And really transforming my perfectionism mindset. Honey, your child is not gonna live. Since when are you supposed to look perfect? And so, yeah, I really struggled with high achieving, goal setting. I had the Olympic gymnast mindset. I was like, things got to look this way, and we want that perfect 10 in everything that we do. And I was not getting a perfect 10, that's for sure. And I was struggling. I was really struggling, and I did not know. I didn't have life skill tools on how to process, emotionally regulate. That's huge in functioning forward. Learning those tools and teaching them to my children, because I definitely didn't want my children following in my footsteps.
Right.
And thinking they needed to be perfect in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I used to tell them all the time, no, honey, we're going to therapy because your mother has no idea what we're doing. I don't know how to fix this situation. I never had a sick, dying brother. I don't know how to fix this. And, I wanted my kids to always know, like, no, there is help out there. We just get to find out where that help is, and make sure to always reach out and let others know that, it's okay, like you said, to not be okay and to ask for help.
Ask for help.
Ask for help. And so many people want to help you, and they'd be like, well, what do you need me to do? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, just really.
Something. I don't pick up a kid from school. I don't know, whatever. But I, like I said, learning. And had I learned back then what my safety was,
Right.
the exercises of the safeties, that would have been huge.
Right.
So yeah, just there's a lot of wisdom and knowledge to share that I can't say enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're definitely one to be able to share because of all the things that you've gone through. It's like, it's amazing. But somehow you were, and thankfully that you're able to be here today and offer, to be able to help others to function forward and to joyfully grieve.
Yeah.
And you want to get in touch with Christi, go to the webpage, Caregivers Like Us, sign up, and her, just reach out. Even if the questions, she loves email, anything.
Yeah. I'm happy to help and serve.
I know that her whole life dedication is to making sure that people like you get help.
Yeah,
like us.
yes, my heart is, I feel my new purpose is supporting the caregivers and giving back and strengthening the supportive areas that I didn't get the support in. Because it's not that it wasn't there, it's connecting the gap of not knowing where to ask for the help,
Yeah.
and two, being on the other end of that and going, well, getting that communication going of how can we support you and building that stronger team. It's imperative. It's just imperative.
This is good. This is good. I want to, you shared a lot of, after Chris Jeffrey passing. I'm always going to say that about my man. And you mentioned about the first year being where you had to really sit still and learn about yourself. They also say, like the second year is harder than the first year.
It was harder than the first year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now going into year 3 and, this special, it falling on Thanksgiving, and with family. How does, I think people may want to know, how does that, going into this, this third year, what are your feelings, thoughts going into celebrating the day, or honoring?
I'm actually looking forward to Thanksgiving Day because there'll be a lot to be thankful for. Specifically, that the grandchildren are not in the hospital. Christopher spent the majority of Thanksgiving and Christmas in the hospital.
Wow.
Most years. So we spent many of days,
Holidays,
in the hospital, having Thanksgiving dinner from a hospital bed, opening up presents from a hospital bed, that kind of thing, bringing the other kids in, kind of much different than a traditional Christmas would look like.
Yeah.
So I am actually really looking forward to this year, because like say the girls were just in critical care last month, both of them at the same time. And, just embracing, celebrating my wins, I guess, is kind of where I feel that I'm at for this third year of, just like how a flower blooms and grows and blossoms. I feel very well watered. And so I don't know that my blooms have completely opened and spread, but I do feel like a very healthy bud. If that makes sense.
That's beautiful, actually. That's a very,
very watered, green,
yeah,
beautiful looking bud is kind of how I feel. And
wow.
I'm really looking forward to 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing. And all of you, with our audience.
I'm happy to share. And do the hard work. The work works. Yeah. And it's meant, like we still say, this happens for us, not to us. I still feel Jeffrey's passing was for me. Like it was time for me to release into my new chapter, my new me, my new purpose. And learning what that was is what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. You've been doing well.
Thank you.
I'm thankful to, in some form or fashion, be a part of that with the podcast and the sharing and advocacy and things like that. And then just knowing, Jeffrey as a musician and fellow musician and always talking, preaching, and all of the good stuff. And I'm grateful for this episode so that you can share even more in detail about your journey, because it's gonna also, it helps so much and solidifies of why we started this, and also another level for what you really have to offer to the fellow caregivers so that they function forward and joyfully grieve.
Yeah.
So once again, want to emphasize that. Connect with Christi and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And it's also National Caregivers Month.
The end of National Caregivers Month, yes.
It couldn't have been more appropriate than to have this to close off the month. And we celebrate the life and the impact and the inspiration of Mr. Christopher Jeffrey Brewer. Boss man. All that.
Yes.
Well, as we close, we're gonna play a little tune here from Mr. Bossman, and I think we're gonna do "Give Me Faith," and I think we'll close out this episode with that. So, blessings to you all. Blessings to you, Christi.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Again, thank you for all that you contribute and that you do, and all the thousands of people that are going to be affected by your sharing, your books, your blogs, your all of that good stuff.
Yes.
And as you heal, it's going to help other people heal as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's setting context for all the caregivers that I want to continue to heal. Yes.
Yeah. So check out the blogs on the site and all the resources and things. And we are here for you. And we will continue to help you fill up your cup so that you can serve from your saucer. And knowing that our caregiving and answering the call to caregiving, it's working for us. It's not to us.
Yeah.
And you have a place to come to. So caregivers like us, we're here. All right, thank you so much. And enjoy Mr. Bossman with Give Me Faith. Till next time.
I'm at a place in my life where things aren't going right. Crying myself to sleep every night. Asking the question, wondering why. Give me faith. Give me faith. Give me faith. Give me faith. Asking why, asking how. Why's my life always round and round? Lord, I'm in need of you, in need of you now. Give me faith. Give me faith. Give me faith. Give me faith. Where there's a will, there is a way. Put your trust in God and He will give you faith. Where there's a will, there is a way. Put your trust in God and He will give you faith. Give me 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 faith, Lord. Give me faith. Give me faith. Give me faith, Lord. give me faith, Lord.
The main thing is to share this with other caregivers or those that have already finished their assignment of caregiving. We just constantly want to share the stories.
Yeah, come share your stories.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear them.